Hello, I'm Davia Chambers and this is Let's Talk Tobago. Today we're at the Branch Bed and Breakfast at French Fort in Calder Hall, Scarborough. 14 years ago, this place was just bare land before it was bought by a local couple as a retirement project. By 2007, this residence was completed and literally became an oasis for friends and family, both at home and abroad. The idea that many found their beautiful home suitable to be a holiday destination was the basis on which the couple decided to transform this place into a bed and breakfast. And the rest, as they say, is history. We'll show you more of this amazing residence. But first, let's tell you what's happening in our stories this week. Autonomy talks hit the road again. More senior citizens receive emergency medical alert devices, and a quest to find the right match. Tobago embarks on a labor survey. Welcome back to Let's Talk Tobago. You're joining us at the Branch Bed and Breakfast at French Fort in Scarborough. The owner tells us that they gave the place the name because of their Christian beliefs. It's part of the reason they've designed this place with a prayer room. This 6-bedroom property sits on just over 5 acres of land, which is littered with various fruit trees, vegetables, and plants. The owners of this place also came up with an irrigation system using a 30,000-gallon water tank below their carport to collect and filter rainwater. The overflow waters the plants and fruit trees in the garden, so water is never wasted. But let's leave it here for now to tell you that the journey towards self-government continues. It's restarting with a public meeting on January 18th. The political leader of the Tobago Platform of Truth, Ho-Choi Charles, a representative from the People's National Movement, Neil Wilson, and the Chief Secretary, Orville London, will seek to engage Tobagonians once again on the issue of autonomy for this island. Keyshawn Wilson tells us more.
12 sector meetings have been held, supported by 4 consultations. Now, the Secretariat for Tobago's Autonomy is taking the movement to another step.
We have a meeting at the Penny Savers Car Park at Canaan Bonaccord at 5 p.m. on Sunday, January 18th. That particular meeting will give an update as to how far we are in the process. As part of a non-partisan secretariat, one of our major concerns is engaging the communities.
Dr. Guy explains what that update entails and why it's so important for the Forum of Political Parties to communicate that to the public.
There was a meeting with the Prime Minister, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, and Mr. London, Mr. Charles, and Mr. Wilson. We seek to give the people an update as to what has happened. The primary engagement is that people should understand what Mrs. Prasad Bisesa said, what were some of the promises she made, what were some of the issues that came forth in the meeting.
She's hoping that the majority of Tobago partakes in the discussion for internal self-government, but there's a special plea for one sector especially.
I'm appealing to the youth to come out to support self-government. I would say back in 1979, I was a student at the time at Bishop's High School, and we were very much involved in seeing the process what happened in 1977, 1979, Mr. Robinson and the movement, and I think it is particularly interesting, it is particularly important for young people to get involved.
Dr. Guy says the Secretariat will continue to do their research on self-government internationally, as the final step is for the bill to be taken to this country's parliament. I'm Keishon Wilson for Let's Talk Tobago.
In a little over a decade, it's expected that the number of senior citizens in this country will climb to just over 17%. The United Nations is also projecting that in developing countries like ours, there'll be more elderly persons than the number of children by 2050. It's therefore critical that measures be put in place to ensure this growing older population is taken care of. And one way Tobago is doing this is by providing them with emergency medical alert devices. Caroline Wallace spoke to some of the newest recipients who told us that this device allows them to rest easier.
Receiving one device has changed Princess Cupid's life. Princess lives in Mount St. George, is blind and suffers from arthritis. Added to this, she lives alone. So now she says having this device means the world to her and allays all her fears, since with the press of one button she will receive assistance.
I'm blind. And then I'm not that strong as I used to be. You know, sometimes I'm falling and feeling and all this thing, you know. Not easy. As long as it is near to me, to my bed or so, and I can reach it.
And that's part of the reason the elderly are so comfortable with having this device. Another reason, according to 211's technician Tenerife Map, is the fact that the user doesn't have to verbally communicate what's wrong to receive help.
And even if you can't speak, because you'll be registered with our system, they will know that they can send someone out to your exact location.
Arnim Arthur also got a device. He's among the 32 beneficiaries who received emergency medical alert devices. He says it makes him feel a lot better.
I find it's very good for me and also my wife, because I always around in the garden, home, kitchen garden. And being as I have this on me, it will benefit because it will beep and someone will be at my assistant.
Over 700 emergency medical alert devices have been purchased since the inception of the program in 2012. They are designed to safeguard the elderly, physically challenged and vulnerable, providing easy and immediate access to emergency service providers. This program is the first of its kind in Trinidad and Tobago and the English-speaking Caribbean. I'm Caroline Wallace for Let's Talk Tobago.
Building or even purchasing a house can be costly, and in Tobago, several strategies are being used to ensure as many people as possible own a home of their own. But sometimes the best of programs still lock out the most vulnerable, which is why there's a special consideration category. Omodara Mills picks up that story.
This key turns the door to the one-bedroom starter house given to this single mother, Lizelle Glasgow. For Lizelle, who's been renting for 10 years and 5 months, it also signifies a better way of life for her and her 10-year-old daughter, Genesis David, who has cerebral palsy.
They gave me a lawyer letter to move from my family house, and it's exactly 10 years now. I'm receiving the keys to my own property. It's a testimony.
Ms. Glasgow is elated to receive the keys to her own home here in Blenheim Heights from the Division of Settlements and Labour, which she got under the Special Consideration Group because of her daughter's medical condition.
I can't express my joy. Only God knows the inner joy that I'm experiencing right now. I thank God and I thank all of you that, work so hard to ensure that I got my keys and all of that. God bless you all and your families. I'm grateful.
In ensuring that the house is safe, the division will provide a ramp to accommodate her daughter's wheelchair. And even though it is a starter home, Ms. Glasgow has been given adequate space to expand as she sees fit. This is part of the Division of Settlements and Labour's continued efforts to provide Tobagonians with various forms of housing assistance. I'm Omodara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
It's time to take a break, but do stay with us because on the other side, we'll tell you about a labor survey designed to better match employees with the jobs they're qualified to do.
Small bites equal major consequences. Protect yourself and your loved ones from mosquito-transmitted diseases such as dengue and chikungunya. Take these simple steps. Empty and clean water storage vessels and flower pots saucers regularly. Clear gutter and nearby bush which may harbor mosquitoes. Install mosquito screens on windows and at other entry points. Use mosquito nets, repellents, and wear long-sleeved clothing. Take action now. Small bites equal major consequences.
Thanks for staying with us. You're viewing Let's Talk Tobago at the Branch Bed and Breakfast at French Fort in Scarborough, which is about 700 feet above sea level. This panoramic view is just one of many you can wake up to if you choose to stay here. Now, this place is just part of Tobago's tourism product, and more initiatives like this one will be needed as Trinidad begins the process of diversifying its economy in light of the rapid decline in oil prices. The value of oil has fallen by more than 50% since June, with benchmark U.S. crude slipping to just about $45 a barrel, while Brent, the international standard, fell to just around $47. Admittedly, Tobago is not heavily dependent on the oil and gas sector, but this doesn't mean our island will not be affected by the economic changes that are inevitable. Actually, that's why more research into the financial and economic status of the island by the central bank is timely.
The presentation of the redesigned $50 bill was not the only issue on the agenda when officials of the central bank and the Tobago House of Assembly met. In keeping with promises made for closer collaboration on financial issues relevant to Tobago, the teams discussed plans to do more financial research on the island, an activity which will help the financial literacy programs for Tobagonians.
We've discussed undertaking a more comprehensive survey of Tobago to determine what is the degree of financial literacy, what might be some of the issues and challenges that is particular to Tobago, and how we could see then that would help feed the different interventions and programs of the Financial Literacy Secretariat. And if need be, support will be provided through our Financial Inclusion Development Agency.
But research is not the only thing. The central bank will be following up on its discussions with the Division of Finance and Enterprise Development, which will include the provision of valuable work experience for Tobagonians.
We've last year agreed to have 2 interns in our vacation internship program at the central bank. We're going to continue that this year.
While in Tobago, the central bank's team also held an educational outreach program to sensitize people on the redesigned $50 bill at the Gulf City Mall, Lowlands. I'm Umadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Do you know what Tobago's labor market looks like? How many job vacancies are available now? How are wages determined? What labor needs there are? Those are just some of the many questions a new survey will seek to answer for the Tobagonian market. It will also help employers find the type of workers they're looking for, and at the end of it all, both employees and employers will have a document they can refer to should they need answers.
Organizations want to get the most out of their businesses, so it's crucial that employers find workers with the skill set needed to get the job done. And in today's world, where so much value is placed on self-actualization, job seekers are looking for meaningful employment. Yet, there's a gap, one that the Division of Settlements and Labour recognizes and is seeking to fill with its first labour supply survey, which targets all communities and businesses around the island.
You need information to make adequate decisions. You need to know where you have the new jobs opening. You need to know what skills people should be gaining to prepare themselves for this labor force that we have, future labor force, industries that we're going to move into. So labor market information, having that, it is good.
The labour supply survey will be conducted over a 3-week period And when it's completed, it will produce an estimate of the number of Tobagonians who are unemployed and employed, together with information which includes skills and qualifications, age, gender, and income. It will also capture information on local, foreign, resident, or migrant employees. All of this will then be placed in a centralized place.
It's a comprehensive platform for disseminating information and for collating, collecting, and analyzing data on labor for Tobago. It would be an integrated system, and the information would be used to advise any policy decisions that the policymakers, the assembly personnel, and other key stakeholders, or all stakeholders, would require.
At the end of the survey, a detailed study will also be published with recommended action. Ms. Fraser says they'll also meet with stakeholders to discuss the findings.
What we always say is that it will take a joint effort to resolve some of these issues.
The Labour Supply Survey will be carried out every 3 years. I'm Keishon Wilson for Let's Talk Tobago.
Many of you know the phrase, prevention is better than cure, and you'll also agree that taking action on anything saves time and money, and in some cases, pain. Now, since we're officially into the dry season, forestry officers in Tobago are ensuring that this island takes precautionary measures that will stop you from scratching. What are we talking about? Well, it's a particular plant that becomes a nuisance once its pods ripen.
Mucuna pruriens. You may not know it by that title, but that's the scientific name for cowitch, a leguminous vine which grows on trees and can be used as forage for animals. But its pods with brown hairs is a nuisance.
Which is most known for its scratching effect on the skin. The pods, when they are ripe, they produce the hairy tentacles that get into your skin and release the toxins and cause the skin to scratch.
There's no known remedy for the itch, but there are several precautions which Tobagonians can take.
Once you identify that there's cowitch on the property, you need to cut it before it starts to pod, before it starts to flower. You need to get rid of it through the roots. Even in the soil, when the seeds fall in the soil, if you can remove that soil that the seeds would be in, so that it will take away the germination tissue from the ground and place it somewhere else so it wouldn't grow back.
Other recommendations include using what's known as a broadleaf herbicide, a weed killer developed specifically for plants like the cowitch. The other option is to burn the plant. But burning the plant requires that you get a fire permit from the fire station before doing so. The division is also asking that people be mindful of their neighbors' well-being.
What happens if I have cowitch in my property, it doesn't stay in my property? It's because of how it is dispersed and sent through the wind. Once anybody is downwind from me, once I have cowitch on my property, it will get downwind. So I need to keep it clean from in my property, so that the rest of the community around me will also have a good day.
For more information about dealing with cowitch, you can contact the THA's Department of Natural Resources and the Environment at 660-2079. I'm Umdara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
We're taking another break, but coming up, a stay at Blue Waters Inn is offered as the grand prize on a popular U.S. game show.
Sit Tobago, ready to provide your community with the highest degree of professional services in emergency response. Contact Sit Mariah at 660-0065 or Sit Speyside at 660-6096. Sit 24-hour services, emergencies, medical or other. Sit Pro, the new face of emergency management.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tobago. We're at the Branch Bed and Breakfast at French Fort in Scarborough. This venue hosts weddings and various receptions, and this pool area is the chosen area for celebrations. At this height, you get a full view of Tobago's windward coastline, and on a clear day, you can expect to see the outline of Trinidad in the distance. Now, Tobago has ramped up its marketing campaign, with tourism officials adding innovative ideas to spark tourists' interest. This island has facilitated 60 Days in Paradise, an initiative that gave a Canadian blogger a chance to spend time on this island. In return, she had to tell her fellow countrymen of the experience. Late last year, Tobago also engaged in guerrilla marketing in London, and this island renamed its international slogan. But are any of these efforts bearing fruit? Well, if a local hotel being offered as the grand prize on a US game show is anything to go by, then the answer is yes. Keyshawn Wilson explains.
The aim is for them to guess hidden phrases one letter at a time. On Wheel of Fortune, contestants win money or prizes as determined by a spin of the wheel for each correct consonant they guess. But they have to pay to see what vowels are in a puzzle. The contestant who assumes the most winnings at the end of a game goes on to play the bonus round, in which the player can win even more. And in the last episode of Wheel of Fortune, one of the prizes was a 6-day, 7-night stay at Blue Waters Inn in Speyside, Tobago. Andrew Gleason, the lucky winner.
Feeling the warmth of the sun.
There you go.
Somehow made contact with the TDC office out of the US, and the TDC office informed us about it. Then we just made contact with one another, and we agreed to terms and everything like that. Blue Water saw it as an ideal advertising opportunity to showcase not only the hotel but to Tobago, and we went along with it.
Since the majority of the hotel's guests come from Europe, Mr. Lee sees this as an opportunity to tap into the American market.
We have a lot of people from London, and recently with COVID returning, we have a lot of Scandinavians, we have a lot of people from Sweden, we have a lot of Sweden, Denmark, of course Germany as well. That would be an ideal thing. Tapping into the American market would be beneficial to the hotel as well, yes.
So what can the winner expect?
As far as I know, the contract is mainly for accommodations, but Blue Waters and being great hosts, we will try to ensure that the stay is a memorable one, and we'll try to make sure that Andrew, I'm not too sure if it's his first time to Tobago, we'll make sure that he experiences Tobago, the culture and everything that we have to offer.
According to the Division of Tourism and Transportation, Tobago is experiencing an uptick in international passenger arrivals this winter period compared to last year. I'm Keyshawn Wilson for Let's Talk Tobago.
But Tobago is more than sun, sand and sea. Its people are also creative, and that shows during Carnival time. The Mecca of Mass, however, is the sister isle. Somehow, Trinidad has managed to market itself as the place to be on Monday and Tuesday. But this balance might soon shift if the Tobago zone of the National Carnival Bands Association, the NCBA, gets its way. The association has started by introducing the concept of band launches to this island. They will also provide some of the resources needed to turn mass into a viable business in Tobago.
The Passion of Paradise, Fantasy Flora, and Full Moon on Midnight Waters. That's a sample of costumes available from the John Dial band JD Fantasy when it presents its 2015 band The Secrets of Paradise. Although the band has been making costumes since 2003, it's the first time that it is doing an official band launch, thanks to the help of the NCBA's Tobago zone.
We here wanted to launch our band several years ago. Every year, it's always the idea, where to launch, how do we do it, where do we go to pull a certain crowd. And I think that this general band launch, where you pull all band leaders into one venue to display their work or their presentation for the year, I think that's fantastic.
This is also the first time that the Tobago zone of the NCBA is facilitating this kind of event for Carnival on the island. And with 10 bands taking part, it's seen as a way of helping the bands market their products and build their businesses.
I think it's all across the board with other band leaders. You're just putting their name out there, you're helping their business, you're helping build their brand. And with this happening and people having more general knowledge about bands that didn't even know existed, it builds revenue. So you can now take your band to a next level. And I think that's what everybody is yearning for.
Besides the launch, the Tobago Zone of the NCBA and the Division of Community Development and Culture are providing grants for the bands, something this 24-year-old band leader is grateful for.
It's a great help. It's a great help because materials aren't cheap, and it's always a good revenue to have when you don't get as much masqueraders to put forward your mask.
The Tobago Zone of the NCBA has also organized workshops which will help band leaders understand the history and the traditional aspects of mass, all in an effort to grow the mass business on the island. I'm Omadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
But cultural tourism is just part of this island's marketing thrust. Tobago is also seeking to be a player in sports tourism, and the cricket season is just one of the ways they're doing that. The season started with the one-day Tobago Super Sixes tournament, which saw over 30 players competing to be named champions. But this year's tournament also had a new element. For the first time, our Tobago players were matched up against competitors from our sister isle. Let's join Caroline Wallace to find out if the trophy stayed with Tobago.
4 teams from Tobago, 2 from Trinidad, came out to compete against each other for the $17,000 first place prize and bragging rights at the 2nd annual Tobago Super Sixes tournament at the Louis D'Or Recreational Ground.
Club Crusoe were the victorious team last year. This year I'm expecting good things for them to give a good account of themselves, seeing as the fact that they boast on their team national players and top players coming out of Tobago. Well, this year tournament we are expecting a very exciting tournament, as this year we have expanded the tournament in terms of inviting 2 teams from Trinidad along with the 4 teams from Tobago to participate in this year's tournament.
This is the first time that Trinidad teams have been included in the match, and this is the rationale for the Sister Isles inclusion.
We are going from strength to strength. The hope is to bring this tournament to a regional tournament where we have teams coming from all over the Caribbean. So as we start to expand, we just invited 2 Trinidad teams. In the process, we will think next year and otherwise to take it further.
He says that while the tournament grows, Tobago's cricketers will also develop their skills as they compete among the best. At the end of the one-day tournament, the $28,000 in cash prizes were shared evenly among the 4 semi-finalists. Club Crusoe, CNB United, Fully Loaded and Central Trini Touring, since inclement weather, halted the tournament after the first semi-final. The event got financial assistance from the Tobago House of Assembly. I'm Caroline Wallace for Let's Talk Tobago.
And it's time to have your say, the segment of our program where we hear from you, our viewers. Trinidad is the largest producer of oil and gas in the Caribbean, with the sector accounting for just about 40% of this country's GDP. 80% of this country's exports are also from the oil and gas industry. But since last year, oil prices have been steadily falling, and as of this month, prices are at their lowest in years, causing the Prime Minister to give a national address to allay the country's fears. Nevertheless, the Chief Secretary has said that Tobago must be prepared for a difficult economic year. He's warned that this island might have to do rethinking and readjustments of its financial programs. So today we're asking, what belt-tightening measures would you like the THA to implement as it prepares for economic changes in light of falling oil prices? This is what you said.
Whatever promises the THA has made for the people of Tobago, it has to be fulfilled.
I think that they should finish one project at a time.
I think like they could have like more trips, like when the boats going Trinidad and things, could have extra trips and the planes and stuff. Yeah, and bring in more tourists and more tourist attractions and things to bring in more people.
They have to try to clean Scarborough city town, make it a more environment, and look for Tobago for the tourists, especially the trade that they are speaking about.
And that's how we bring this week's edition of Let's Talk Tobago to a close. Remember, you can send us your comments or queries on anything you've seen in this program to information@tha.gov.tt, or you can even visit us at www.tha.gov.tt. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Davia Chambers, and on behalf of all of us at the Department of Information, have a safe and enjoyable week. And as we go, let's leave you with some final images of the branch bed and breakfast at French Fort, Calder Hall, Scarborough.